And once again, Pakistan crashed out of the World Cup without making the semi-finals. Welcome to the shiny side. We will be looking at reviewing Pakistan's performance, what went wrong, and what could have been done differently. And with me, I have from Houston, Omer Basir.
Hey, good morning, everybody.
And from Dubai, we have Umair Qazi once again.
Hello, everyone.
So before we get into the thick of things, what we're going to do is I'm going to name the 15 players, and what you have to do is based on your your view, tell me if you think any of these guys were the performance were at par with your expectation, over or underperformed, right? So and we'll see what the result looks like. So starting off, Fakhar Zaman.
Above expectations.
Omar. Okay. Imam.
Below.
Shafiq, Abdullah Shafiq.
Above.
Makes sense. Babar Azam.
Below.
Rizwan.
Below.
Saud. So Umar is par, okay, and Umair is interesting. Saud Shakil.
Below.
Wow, that's quite an interesting one. Okay, so Saud and Rizwan are the ones we don't have a consensus on, so I'm marking those. And then
middle order.
Yeah, Ifti. Interesting. Agha Salman, I only played one game, but okay, that's fine. Shadab.
Below.
Nawaz. Omar, you have him at par. Interesting.
Low expectations going in, but yeah.
Okay. Nawaz.
Below.
Was, yeah.
Osama.
Below.
Interesting. Shaheen.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe a bit down.
Okay.
Southwest.
I'm going to veto and go take Shaheen down. Hassan Ali. Yeah, makes sense. Wasim Jr. Yeah, makes sense. And the last one being Haris Rauf. I think I know the answer. Is there a 2 thumbs down option?
Yeah, I have a 2 thumbs down.
So guys, we don't have a consensus on. So Rizwan, I think Umar said he's at par or below expectations, right? And Umair had them at below. I think I would also put him as par because I feel like he did okay. I expected him to do that. He wasn't like above that. Saud Shakil, that was a surprising one. What was your vote again, guys?
So I think below expectation.
Yeah,
I did par.
And why would you call it below, Umar? I'm curious to know.
Umar had this, I had this.
But why would you think Saud is below?
Okay, so Saud Shakil did nothing in the World Cup for me. I mean, he had a 68 against Netherlands. He had a 52 against South Africa. Both very good innings, but he should have continued, got out at the wrong time. And in all the other games, he has 20s and 30s. I mean, what good are those scores? Given the promise he showed, he should have scored a lot more than he did. Yeah. And he was supposed to be a best player of spin, and he got out to spin in 6 or 7 of the innings.
And I guess with him, he started the tournament well, and you felt like he could build on from there. But if anything, it went the other way around towards the end. So
yeah, no, just 20s and 30s. The innings against South Africa was amazing, but he should have continued on.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I went the other way is because, he's so new into the team, international scene even, that given he's performed, 2-3 times, 50s, to me, that was a good achievement in a high-pressure environment, first time in India. So, thought he did well.
So I guess to sum up, we have Fakhar and Abdullah Shafiq and Wasim Jr. in above expectation, which makes complete sense. We have Rizwan and Saud are question marks / below. Ifti is the same. Ifti is actually par or above. Agha is at par. Shadab, Umar, I'm going to veto that. I'm going to put him below expectations. I didn't expect much, but he was definitely below expectations. And Osama...
I think my expectations, right before the World Cup, right? Right before the World Cup, this was, the writing was on the wall. Okay. So he not the Shadab of old, but yes.
That makes sense.
So if you look at our batting, it seems like our bowling is generally hanging out below expectations. Our opener is actually above expectation, but the one guy who's below is Imam, who played the most games, and sadly. and then we have the quicks, which are kind of in the middle. I mean, I guess in the middle orders in the red bar. So I guess moving on, guys, and if we look at the numbers of what we did, right? So if you look at the openers, we had Fakhr and Shafiq doing really well, but Imam underperforming severely, and he played 6 games, so that kind of brought us down. In the middle order, I guess Rizwan, Babar, Saud, and all they were all right. I guess it was the bowling where, I mean, spin, right? I mean, no matter how you look at the numbers, the one thing that took you down, हम ये 25वीं दफा कह रहे हैं, is the spin. And do you think that's an unfair statement? Like, had this, before this tournament began, on the Cricketers podcast, one of the guys said Pakistan's performance will depend on Shadab. If Shadab can have a decent tournament, they will do well. But if he cannot, the spin is just too weak to be able to do anything in India. And it just seems like, I guess if I have to conveniently blame one domain, it has to be our spin bowling. Do you guys have a different view on that?
I mean, I would say it's...
No, completely agree.
Go ahead, Umair.
No, go on.
Yeah, so I would say it's more so the larger umbrella for me is the controlling the middle overs. Of course, spin is a major component of that, right? But again, Haris Rauf is a major component of that as well.
True.
So for us, I don't think going into the World Cup, spin was going to be our strength. It was more of a come in and just try not to get whacked around too much, right? But I think Haris Rauf not showing up to the party really hit us hard. And then, of course, those early wickets without Naseem and a full, firing Shaheen early on.
And I think the thing to keep in mind is that Pakistan didn't qualify based on NRR. Somehow, one more point, one more result changes, or like a couple of margins change, and we could be in. So that's how close it was, right? And I guess at this point, we have to talk about selection. Do either of you think we got a selection wrong? Umair, you go first. Selection for the tournament, and then selection for the 11 as you went through.
I don't think we got this squad selection of 15 wrong at all. I believe the best 15 players went to the World Cup. And see, the problem lies in the fact that we didn't play enough ODIs in the last 2 years to really know what may be our best 11 or combination. The problem started appearing during the Asia Cup. Till then, we were thinking we were the best ODI team around. We were ranked number 1. Everyone thought it was great. And then the Asia Cup happened and we realized, we have a lot of problems, lots of issues, chinks in the armor. And those just continued in the World Cup.
Yeah.
So the problem was in scheduling and playing the ODI, a lot of ODIs, and understanding what your best 11 would be. And then going into the World Cup, Fakhr Zaman, fine, he had been out of form, but he's your X factor. You need to play him. And then Shadab, Nawaz, everyone just fell out of form at the same time. And that led to our downfall. I don't think the selection was wrong.
Umar, your view on selection?
Yeah, I agree with those sentiments. You build a squad for the World Cup in the preceding 2 years going into it, right? So I think the selection committee, to be fair, did a decent job of increasing the player pool. We tried a bunch of fast bowlers. Usman Qadir used to be hanging around the squad, played a few games a couple of years ago. But then nobody actually, the fast bowlers were doing well, but then again, all of a sudden, everybody got injured. Spinners, I don't think Usman Qadir, did justice to getting selected. So Osama Mir had to be brought in the recent past. So I really don't think, people like, Imad Wasim should have been around the squad. Maybe that would have given an option, but I would not have brought him in last minute for the World Cup, right?
Yeah.
I think selection wasn't an issue. It's everyone just getting out of form. And, and Fakhr, I mean, honestly, I think we had to sit him down and he needed that rest. But I think he did play the game against the Netherlands even, right? And he didn't do well.
So I think what was odd there, if you look at the selection of the 11 specifically, we played him in the first game and then we made him sit. Right, so either you don't play him in the first game and you bring the other guy in, but we played him in the first game and he didn't score much, sure. But then just dropping him after one game was a bit odd, I thought. Yeah.
I didn't.
They were trying to get him back into form in that game, right? That's what they were trying.
You're playing in those Indian pitches, which we all thought would be way flatter than those Sri Lankan pitches. So I thought it was a fair call, and then he didn't do anything. And they're like, okay, how long do we go on with this?
Yeah. I mean, it took us 7 games to get the openers right. I guess we have to talk about Imam, right? So Imam is still ranked like the top 10 batsmen in ODIs. Do you guys think the ranking is reflective of his actual competence, or do you feel like he's a somehow over-ranked player? Umar, you want to take that first?
Yeah, no, he has the skills. I think he has a lot of great things that he does. Cricket is a team game. When you're batting with Fakhr Zaman, you have a different role to play, which he did really well. Play more of the orthodox cricket, support him well, and even attack. Took the innings deep. Right, he was an anchor, so he did justice to that role. All of a sudden, his partner, who was doing so well, is nowhere to be seen, and that change that he had to make now to be the enforcer, he couldn't do that, right? I remember when he used to bat with Fakhr, we would see Imam coming down the wicket, and he did take a few risks, right? All of that, he wasn't taking any risks this time, right? So I think it's more of a role changed and he couldn't adapt. I think he has the ingredients to be successful, but yeah, it was a bit, given his experience now, you'd expect him to come out better from it. So that was a bit frustrating, is the amount of time it took for him to.
I guess Umair comes down to the same point where our entire plan revolves very deeply on a Fakhr Zaman playing a certain way. But Umair, what's your take on Imam though?
Yeah. Look, I think he's finally fallen out of the top 10 rankings. He was ranked number 2 till before the World Cup, but now he's out of the top 10. And I don't think the rankings are flawed. His numbers show that he is a great ODI bat, right? He averages 50 plus. I think after this World Cup, he's fallen to 48, 49. He's got 10, 9 or 10 ODI hundreds. He's done well. The problem is probably the strike rate and the way he bats, right? Even in this World Cup, he has 2 or 3 50s. And I think the reason he was dropped was because Fakhr and Abdullah can give you a better strike rate. The problem Pakistan faces is that Imam, Babar, Rizwan, these are 3 people who sort of play an anchor role. You can't have 3 batsmen in an ODI setup playing an anchor. The teams at most have 1, at most 2, not more.
Yeah.
And this is where our problem is, right? Yeah. You have Fakhr at the top. Abdullah Shafiq plays at a good rate. He can, rotate the strike as well and go out and play at a fast pace. But the problem with Imam is he's got Baba and Rizwan coming in, so they're all just accumulating, and not enforcing the pace, right? So I think the issue is strike rate. Otherwise, he's a very solid batsman.
I guess coming to what everybody loves talking about, right, which is captaincy. So we spoke about this, and Pakistan went out again. I'm saying this on NRR. One more game we managed to turn around, and we would have been in. So what's your take? I guess the criticism of Babar is he's not proactive enough, etc., etc. So do you guys say that's legitimate criticism, or would you say because we've lost, these things are coming up, and had we won the game or had we somehow qualified, this would not have been a factor? Umair, you go first.
I don't think leadership is an issue for Pakistan cricket. Never thought it was. Even if you want to play a certain way, have the intent and have the mindset to play attacking cricket, you need to have the talent to back that. You don't have that talent. I've seen a lot of Pakistan cricket, be it T20, be it PSL, be it ODIs. You don't have the kind of batsmen that England have possessed in the past or India has now, who can go out there and play at 120, 130, 140 strike rate consistently. We don't. So even if you want to play that way, you need to have players to be able to back that. So no, I don't think leadership is an issue at all. Never thought it was. And till you have the talent and the players who can play like that, you will not be able to do it, no matter who the captain is.
Omar?
Yeah, I have an opposing view to it. By the way, first of all, Pakistan were 2 points behind New Zealand, right, with that England loss.
I mean, eventually you're right, actually, yes.
Yeah. So we had to win another game. But yeah, going to the captaincy, look, the job of the captain is you're dealt a set of cards and you have to use them wisely. I think Babar there's a lot of area for improvement for Babar. I don't think he's the best captain going around. Some of his calls tactically haven't been the best. I don't think he's proactive enough. So, I think he's a great people person, or he gets on well with the team. So that's great to have a, happy, content dressing room. But out on the field, I don't think. I think some calls have left a lot more to be desired. Recent one, the South Africa game. Yeah, we didn't score enough, or people remember the last, DRS decision. But hey, if Babar had a slip in there for a new batsman with a bowler doing well, we would have had a wicket, right? So things like that, calls that we sometimes forget, those are what turns games around, right? Turn games around. So I think Babar, I don't think he's the best captain going around for sure.
Okay, I guess, and a lot of that is probably more highlighted when we're in the field. I think from a behind the scenes point of view and from a planning point of view, and as a batting captain, he's probably, I would say, but I think when he's in the field, that's probably where there's some question marks. I think moving on to the coaching setup, right? So we mentioned this a number of times. We had an odd structure to accommodate Mickey. Mickey Arthur was director cricket. We had Bradburn as the coach, who used to be assistant coach when Mickey was coach a few years ago. And it seems like we had a lot of the right people in there. We had Imam-ul-Haq, by the way, as part of the team. Imam-ul-Haq is someone who is the GM of Islamabad United, one franchise that's meant to be the most analytical and the ones who use the most data and so on and so forth. It seems like a lot of the right information and a lot of the right people were probably in the mix, but it somehow didn't translate into, I guess, the right kind of, it didn't seem like the team were as prepared as, say, Islamabad United would be. So, Umair, how do you make sense of that?
I don't know. Mickey Arthur was probably not around the team that much to understand what was going on, who was in form, and probably didn't see the players firsthand till the Asia Cup. Grant Bradburn has been around the team for a bit. I honestly don't know what Rehanul-Haq does. I mean, he's a great analyst. I've read a lot of his pieces. I hear a lot of him on different podcasts, but there seemed to be zero contribution from the coaching setup into, or if there was any input, it was not translated on the field.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Umar, your view on the coaching setup?
Much. Yeah, I mean, obviously, we all have discussed how this Mickey Arthur part-time thing, hanging out in Hawaii, but coaching from there, that doesn't work, right? I wish I had his job. But so I think from the analyst perspective, look, you got to go out and deliver. Umair made that point in the previous question, right? At the end of the day, players have to go bowl in the right areas and batsmen have to go, not get out and hit the bad balls away, right? If you're not doing that, all the analysts gets thrown out of the window. Right. The second part to it, I tied to your previous question on good captaincy, right? Once you're doing your basics really well, that's when the analytics come in and, okay, we're doing okay. How do we now leverage the best or matchups and so on and so forth, right? For that, again, that foundational layer needs to happen, which I don't think happened for us. And then that captaincy piece comes in where how do I leverage this information on to actionable, outcomes on the field?
Yeah. And going forward, and Umar, you answer this first. So what do we need to work on? Is it more skills? Is it more mindset? Is it both? And I'm talking specifically about white ball cricket. So T20 World Cup coming up, ODI World Cup, ODIs, etc. Umar, in your view, is it more of a skills thing we need to build on or mindset?
I think so from a mindset perspective, we played some good attacking cricket over the last 2 years. It's fair to say that. I think it came down to one player, maybe Fakhar Zaman, as you highlighted earlier. So skills is an area that's lacking, which is a bit odd given we're playing so much T20 and we do have players that, can hit the ball far. They're just not. So we need more of ifties who can back the longer version, right? If that makes sense. So I think it's more of a skills thing versus a mindset. I think we've seen that transition happen in Pakistan cricket. I think the mindset change is happening for sure.
Umair, your view?
So look, I think there's a big difference between T20 and ODIs. I don't think we have a problem in T20 cricket at all. We are a very good T20 team. We've seen that in the last T20 World Cups and our results, and we'll keep seeing that. I think we've got a solid team for T20 cricket. When it comes to ODIs, I think we've been behind the ball for over 2 decades now, and it requires a complete shift. I think there's a talent mismatch, there's a skill mismatch. There's a lot that needs to be done when it comes to ODI cricket. I don't know where you'll find these players, but we don't play enough of it. We still won't play enough of it leading into the Champions Trophy in 25 and the World Cup in 27. Our next ODI is in November next year. So unless you're playing those 15, 20 ODIs every year and developing a set 11 and a bench, you will never be a good ODI side. And I think PCB is not focusing on ODI cricket. So I don't think we'll see a strong ODI Pakistan team for a while.
Also, I think one more thing I want to talk about, right? So if you look at how the PSL works and how the 4 foreign players work, most teams tend to have at least 3 of those batting in the top order, right? It's very often aggressive batsmen, left-handers who are batting with our more anchor kind of batsmen. I've always thought, and then because Pakistan has a lot of quicks, most of the quicks bowlers tend to be Pakistani and the spinners. I've always thought, I think there could be they could bring in a new rule where in the top 5, only 2 can be foreign players. I know you can't do that immediately because teams have planned accordingly, but I would say doing something like that will encourage more Pakistanis to play in the top order. Whether it's feasible to make a change like that, I really feel like that will help us develop more aggressive batsmen in the top order. Because, even though we have a PSL, essentially it's a bunch of foreign guys who come and do that and go away, and we don't really, and our guys are just anchoring or bowling fast or spin. So do you guys have a view on that, Omar? You want to go first?
Yeah, so I think things like that probably are to be considered. But again, you're talking about the T20 format where bandages work, right? And you could do these things and develop that talent to bat out 20 overs and play those cameos. But 50 overs ball game, all your skills get tested. So for that, really, it's more the test format, right, or the 4-day game that's played in Pakistan. How do we develop talent there? And I found it very interesting hearing Wasim Akram talk about the pitches, or maybe Misbah, right? And he mentioned how each pitch in Pakistan has the soil comes from the same place. So each pitch is inherently the same pitch. Of course, your environmental conditions have a little bit of an impact, but we're all batting across Pakistan on the same type of wicket. So you take that as how different countries do it. That's not how it works. Every ground you play in, the pitch is different. Everything is different about it, and that's where you learn how to adopt. That's how you adapt. That's how you learn how to get used to the conditions, read the conditions, right? So I think that has a part to play as well. And then if I could just add one more point, right? So when it comes to, we had zero experience of Indian conditions. So I don't think it's been talked about enough, but I think it's it was a variable that we just couldn't do anything about. And that was in display in the final, with the Australians, and many of these teams are so familiar with conditions that Cummins just read it perfectly, right? And not were we struggling with reading the conditions before the game and planning for it on the ground itself. I mean, our guys, and every match you played on a different ground almost.
So I think in 2011, we had the advantage where our conditions were more similar to India compared to other countries, and IPL hasn't been there for long enough. But now there's been 15 years of IPL. We haven't played in India in a while, so I think it's gone the other way. But Umair, your view on the PSL rule I was talking about, and etc.
Yeah, look, I think even having foreign players batting in the top order, there are a lot of players around who can learn from those players. You have foreign coaches in the PSL as well, and you can have batsmen learn from them. They don't necessarily, and then once they develop over time, they can be also batting in the top order or not. I think a rule like that can make sense in as you said, not immediately, but it would push more people to bat in the top order and bat more aggressively, because that's what you need. It's a good way to develop a lot of batsmen. But having these foreign players and coaches around should also provide the learning opportunity for all these batsmen as well. And it doesn't not necessarily mean the new ones. Our existing players like Babar, players like Rizwan, Imam. Imam doesn't even play T20 cricket for Pakistan, but they can develop the kind of shots that people play in T20 cricket to become those kind of batsmen.
So guys, last question for both of you. Umair, you go first. You are becoming PCB chairman tomorrow. What are the 3 or 4 things you would do if you have a 1 or 2 year horizon? What would you do? What would you focus on?
Oh, wow. That's a tough one. It's a dream job though, but let's see. First, domestic structure. I think what you need to fix is your domestic cricket, your red ball 4-day tournament, your 50 over white ball tournament, and your T20. You've got PSL, right? PSL should probably be your only T20 league. That's fine. You have Qaid Azam Trophy. You have your 50 over tournament. I don't even know how many 50 over domestic tournaments you play, but you need your best players playing those. I get that players go around the world and play leagues and make money, but you need to have your best players playing domestic cricket. You need to improve your ground infrastructure and your pitches and the balls you use to be able to come as close to international cricket as possible. You need to provide the domestic players that environment so they compete in conditions close to international cricket. Second thing is to develop your bench strength. The only way you develop your bench strength is you play more. If India doesn't give you matches, Australia, England don't give you matches, play with South Africa, Sri Lanka, West Indies. There are a lot of other teams. Play more games, have more A tours, have more under-19 tours, develop a strong bench of 20, 25 players, so that when a Babar sits out, you have another quality batsman replacing him. Right now, India is playing a T20 game. There's no Rohit, there's no Gill, there's no Kohli, there's no one. And they're chasing 203. They'll almost do it, I think. Anyway, that's India. They have a huge bench strength anyway. So improving domestic structure, building your bench strength, getting the right coaches in place for the international team, people with certifications. I don't care whether they're foreign or Pakistani. You need people who have gone through these coaching tests or certificates, whatever is required, level 4, level 5, whatever the highest levels are. You need people in the management with those certifications. And you need the same sort of people running the academy as well. At the top of my head, these are
sounds comprehensive enough. I think good first week for the chairman. Omer?
Well, first week in the job, I'm taking the Sharif brothers out for steak and lobster so I can stay around for 2 years before building that business plan. But yeah, I think what Umair said is key. I think the long-term success lies in having a strong foundation, building that pipeline of talent, building that system that where you take talent early on, you harvest it, you coach it into becoming a final product. So my time won't be spent with the international team, to be honest, that much, because I expect a refined product ending up there. So it'll be more on how do I clean up in house. And I think firstly it's good to acknowledge, right? So the last few years, or last many years now, the focus, it was a struggle if you were ahead of the PCB. Not even talking about all the political madness, but we had a P&L that wasn't really generating revenue. There was no cricket in Pakistan. PSL was being held overseas. So there was all these things that they had to take care of. Now I think finally we're in a better place. So really we can go back to thinking about how do we set the foundation, build that pipeline. And I think I would bring in the best coaches we have within Pakistan or abroad and coach our domestic teams. Again, my focus would be on those A teams and that one layer below, the first class structure, and then go from there. And then as you do that, longer term, you look at all the way down to school cricket. I think you need that pipeline.
Yeah. Okay. Good stuff, guys. I think
यार ये वीडियो जरा भेज दो उनको. ये हमारा इंटरव्यू हो गया उमर और मेरा, हमें जॉब्स मिल जाएंगी पीसीबी में.
2 कैंडिडेट
स्टेक और लॉबस्टर मजाक था. I can't afford it.
यार I think उनको KFC ले जाए, वो उससे भी खुश हो जाएंगे. यार निहारी खिला देंगे.
As long as there's enough KFC, they'll be happy. But good stuff, guys. I think good discussion. We'll send a summary to the chairman. So let's see how this goes. But thank you for sharing your views. By the way, those of you watching, if you have a view on what you think the chairmans need to do, please leave a comment on the message on social media and share what you feel. And Omar, thank you for joining in.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for not doing a quiz which I always lose.
Omer, thank you for joining again.
And thank you, Faris. It's been great. May the shiny side keep shining.
Yes. And those of you watching, please stay tuned. We'll be back soon with more episodes and a bunch of cricket kept coming up. In the meantime, stay tuned to the shiny side.